Yo, what's good, everybody? It is your boy, Golden Falls, Golden What Ifs, whatever you want to call me. And I'm back. This is What If Tanjiro had ice powers. If you guys enjoy, show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. I've really been enjoying stuff like this, shorter what ifs, quicker to the point, skip over a couple things if it doesn't really matter, or just quickly talk about various different things that, could potentially happen in the what ifs. Not sure how you guys feel about it. I've seen good comments. From time to time, I'll see one that they're like, I don't really like this style. I'm trying to find my own style that I enjoy personally, because I will admit there's times where I get kind of bored of doing stuff like this. But with this faster style, it keeps things fresh for me, keeps the ideas fresh. And frankly, I really, really like doing stuff like this. Now, with that said, I'll stop yapping and I want to get into it. So make sure to check the links in the description for the Discord, the Spotify, the membership, all that good stuff. And yeah, that's really all I got to say. I want to get right into it. So let's get it. Tanjiro Kamado is born just like anyone else, right? Into this world. But the thing is, at a young age, he would learn that he has some sort of connection to the actual kind of snow and ice that is all around him. It's weird because normally he doesn't really feel much, but when the snow comes out, when the kind of snow and the ice starts falling, he starts feeling a different understanding, a different feeling about what's happening all around him. He starts feeling some insane affinity to this ice and to this stuff that is legitimately all around them. And at the end of the day, Tanjiro's like, whoa, this is a feeling that I was not expecting. This is not what I would have thought. And he would tell his father at a young age about this feeling of how ice makes him feel, and how it makes him feel powerful, how being around it makes him feel better, as if he's healing from it in a way. But he doesn't know anything about it. But his father kind of explains to him that some people are unique, some people are different. So yes, the feeling that you have may just be something special. Some people are truly that unique. Some people are truly different than anyone else. So yeah, is there a chance that you have special powers deep within your veins? You have special things pumping through your blood? That definitely could be a thing, and definitely could be a possibility, and he will never write that out and write that off. And he tells his son to follow his own lead, follow his own heart, and follow the cold, follow the ice, and follow it to exactly where he's supposed to be. And he held these words for a long time. Tanjiro would try, messing around, try, creating things. He would create snowmen with his literal, powers, it seemed. And his siblings would love it. His sister, his brothers, all that stuff. They would love it. They would be like, wow, this is so awesome. Big brother has such amazing powers. He's so cool. But eventually, the day would come. The day where his family would be taken out and Nezuko would be the sole survivor, transforming into a demon. And when this all ensues, when this all happens, Tanjiro would get attacked by Nezuko when he would go to save her or try to get her to out of harm's way or get her to some sort of doctor. But instead of Giyu Tomioka actually saving him, he saves himself, making it so Nezuko can moves very slowly out of just necessity. He gets up slowly and tells Nezuko, calm down. As he holds her still, Nezuko's still struggling to try to get through, and Giyu Tomioka would walk up and he would see Tanjiro's abilities in full display. He would be like, okay, what's going on here? How are you doing that? That's a demon, kid. How are you stopping her from moving? And he's like, no, this is my sister. This is my sister, and I need to protect her, and blah, blah, blah. And Giyu's like, no, you don't understand. Your sister is a demon, and what you need to do is you need to get rid of her, end her. And Tanjiro's like, I'm not going to do that. I won't let you do that. In which Giyu would then go to strike Nezuko, but Tanjiro would immediately use his powers to send a wave of snow straight at Giyu Tomioka, sending him pushing him away towards a tree. Giyu would be able to push his way through, but he would look back and he would tell Tanjiro to stay calm. Look, I wasn't going to actually strike her down. I wanted to see what you could truly do. But your sister, she needs to basically calm down to an extent where they can figure things out. He needs to be able to detain her for a long period of time, in which he would basically tell Nezuko, like, you have to calm down, Nezuko. You can't fight. You can't come attack us because blah, 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 and this and that. Because, well, like, this guy's going to end you. In which Tanjiro would eventually let her go, and she would attack Tanjiro once again. And Giyu would basically come over and grab Tanjiro and pull him away, and then even threaten to end him, telling him that with you here, it seems that your sister's going to just continue doing whatever she wants, so I might as well take out the both of you. And in doing this, it makes Nezuko react a different way, protecting Tanjiro and showing aspects of being human. And then when this happens, Giyu would knock them both out and basically say, like, after they wake up, or after Tanjiro wakes up, that he needs them to go to Urokodaki, somebody that he knows and somebody that could train him. And that's exactly what Tanjiro would do. His first encounter with another demon, though, would be the Temple Demon. He would face off with the Temple Demon, and it wouldn't be too outlandish. It wouldn't be like some overwhelming, insane fight by any means, but it would be a fight that would ensue and would happen to a certain degree. Tanjiro would kind of slow him down, freeze him to an extent with the powers he has. And the fact is, he still has quite a bit of snow around him, or at least enough cold air and stuff like that allows him to slow the demon down to the point where eventually Urokodaki would arrive and help him actually get rid of this demon, as the sun would eventually rise and the demon would burn up into a crisp, which Urokodaki would explain that that's exactly how a demon is defeated, via the powers of the sun. And that's exactly what he will use when he becomes a demon slayer, something that absorbs the powers of the sun, other known as a Nichirin blade. And that right there is something Tanjiro wasn't expecting to hear, but this is the start of his training. The start of training with Urokodaki, learning the ways of water breathing. But as he learns the ways of water breathing, it seems like his powers and his strength would combine with his ice-like powers that he has. And it seems that his water breathing would turn somewhat into kind of like this ice or kind of this snow-like breathing, allowing him to mix in both ice and water at the same time because of the connection that they both have. His powers of ice powers would so seamlessly combine with his water breathing style because of the connection between the elements of water and ice, well, being that they are like the same, right? And that connection would build more and more as he would learn from Urokodaki. And Urokodaki would see the potential in Tanjiro. Every single form of water breathing would be kind of turned into a version of a mix of ice breathing in a way, right? The water breathing that he would normally kind of consume or utilize is combined with literally his ice powers. And Tanjiro, he would really see the benefits of the powers that he has, as if he has some sort of hybrid breathing style that allows him to do even more than you can think of. His normal like water breathing style, his water breathing techniques, I mean, are enhanced to a degree that honestly he wouldn't even expect in the first place, because at the end of the day, he's just learning these things. He's just barely learning what this is, what water breathing is and what's going on and how it works and whatever, right? He's just learning these things, so he knows so little. So the fact that he's starting to learn more about it, he turns, for example, the normal first form of water surface slash into a first form frozen water surface slash, allowing him to do something crazy, way more crazy and way more potent than normal, actually making it so these water breathing techniques are actually there, like they exist, and they're a lot more potent in terms of the strength that Tanjiro is giving off, and frankly makes his swings a lot more brutal and a lot stronger than normal. Now, this would lead him to obviously training with the spirits of Sabito and Makomo, and obviously going to the final selection. The final selection, on the other hand, would be a breeze for Tanjiro. The cold night air would help him greatly in kind of getting things done and making sure that he progresses properly. But the thing that really helps him in this is his hybrid breathing style of water breathing and also ice, or his ice powers, aka his like ice breathing. And combining both of these, it makes it so that everything is so much more seamless in terms of him defeating demons. In terms of the hand demon, I mean, he cuts that thing's head off so clean and so easily with his first form, frozen water surface slash, and it makes him look a lot simpler in that regard and makes things a lot more basic to actually deal with. Even giving off this like frozen kind of tint that is basically giving off a lot of this like coldness around him, and when he gets around other demons, they also slow down quite a bit, leading to him defeating quite a few demons in the final selection. Not all of them, because he didn't go out of his way to, you know, specifically do that. And he's, you know, in terms of strength, he's very similar to original Tanjiro. It just added on with the ice powers that combined with his water breathing, leading him to obviously finishing the final selection and then heading off after getting his Nichirin ore to see Urokodaki and his sister Nezuko once again. After that whole reunion happens, he gets his blade and then would embark on his first mission against the Swamp Demon. And this would be the perfect mission for Tanjiro, because the water that the Swamp Demon kind of has underneath his portals would be the perfect thing, because Tanjiro would literally be able to freeze him in one of his portals. In doing so, it gives him an easy slash as he utilizes his second form that he kind of changed. Normally it's this kind of water wheel, but he changes it to its second form, Ripple of Ice, as he does his circular kind of motion, but it also freezes the waves, and then it slashes through them, trapping the enemies even further, but also slicing through his neck and also the demon, well, obviously the demon's neck, right, in one foul swoop. And entrapping the demon within his own portal allowed Tanjiro to basically take a really big opening against this demon and defeat him in one foul swoop. Now, this would lead him to obviously helping out the village and getting rid of this demon for them, but it would also lead him to eventually his first face-off with Muzan-ki Butsushi. Now, this first face-off is very similar to the normal one, and Tanjiro still spews his threats. Now, defeating this demon that is created, right, by Muzan out of nowhere is easy, because he just kind of freezes him over and slows him down, in which Muzan doesn't really pay attention to this, not really thinking about it and the powers that Tanjiro gives off. And the main reason why he doesn't really think about it is because of the fact that, guess what? I mean, he's already scared because he's seen the kind of earrings and the stuff, and his look that Tanjiro has that makes him look very similar to Yoriichi. So he's not thinking about anything like that. He's not thinking about all that, because he's thinking, oh my goodness, like, is this Yoriichi all over again? Blah, blah, blah. So he would end up sending demons, being that of Susumaru and Yahaba, to face off with Tanjiro. But Tanjiro's ability to change the battlefield makes things very difficult for Susumaru and Yahaba. The fact is, he's able to create this kind of snow-like area all around them, and create this area all around them that at least slows them down to a certain extent. It's not perfect, don't get me wrong. It's not like some perfect ice cube type of area, but it does make it so that it just slows down the demons enough to where he can actually progress and actually get the upper hand on the demons pretty easily. But with also the help of Yushiro, Lere Tamayao, and also Nezuko, it makes this fight just as easy, and makes it a lot easier to actually defend against these two surprise demons. Now, after that defeat, we obviously have the conversations about Tanjiro, about Nezuko, about curing her and stuff like that. All that stuff still goes exactly the same. And as we progress past that, we see Zenitsu and Tanjiro talk once again, and Tanjiro gets a little bit upset at him about what he's doing, about bothering this girl and stuff like that. And eventually Zenitsu caves in and basically tells him, okay, like, I'll go on a mission with you. They head into a mansion to save a little kid, or the brother of 2 other little kids. And this mansion, well, it would be filled with demons. A demon that Tanjiro is going to have to deal with being that of Kyogai, one of the 12 Kizukis. And the thing is, he definitely has to take him down, or one of the 12 Kizukis down, because of the fact that, guess what? He needs the blood of someone that was a Kizuki, or at least a former Kizuki. So, yes, this fight is pretty important for Tanjiro. So he starts basically utilizing everything he can. Starts filling the room up with ice mist as much as he possibly can to slow down Kyogai and his ability to tap the drums. And the fact is, when he taps the drums, it shifts the entire area. So slowing him down half a second or even a quarter of a second makes everything a big difference, allowing for Tanjiro to close that gap a lot easier against someone like Kyogai than normal at all. Like, he is able to close that gap a lot easier than normal in the original version that Tanjiro would close the gap to defeat the one and only Kyogai. Obviously, Tanjiro finds his way a lot simpler and is able to defeat him just like that, right? He's able to defeat him with the use as well of the 9th form of water breathing, allowing him to kind of utilize the ripple effects and the water or the water kind of splashing water flow in a turbulent way, allowing him to kind of push forward and allowing him to really show off his footwork that is completely way better than normal because of his ability to slow down the entire room and also speed himself up in a way because he's able to make the room itself a little bit icier, so he's able to have control over his footwork even better. And yes, the defeat of Kyogai would happen, but Inosuke would show up just as that defeat would ensue. Inosuke would basically complain and yell and, do all this stuff and basically try to fight Tanjiro. But Tanjiro would tell him, like, there's other demons here, he's sure. So if he wants to go fight something, he should go fight some other demon that's, around here somewhere. And go elsewhere to, like, take him down or do whatever. And he basically tells him this, and obviously Inosuke's like, oh, really? Like, there's more demons? Oh, just say less. Like, I'm going to go over there and I'm going to go beat on some other demons. And that's exactly what he ends up doing. He goes out there and does just that. And obviously Tanjiro's like, well, that guy was a interesting fellow. Like, he wasn't really expecting him to act in such a way, but, whatever, right? It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. And he now sees that there are some very interesting fellows in terms of people that are demon slayers, including Zenitsu, right? Very interesting fellow. But when he would get out of the area, he would see Zenitsu protecting his sister Nezuko, as Inosuke would follow close behind, trying to attack the box. And Zenitsu refuses to give up the box, refuses to let Inosuke hurt Nezuko. And this would lead to Tanjiro basically, like, freezing part of his leg into the ground and telling him, like, he better chill the hell out or things are going to get really, really bad really fast. And after defeating him in a miniature fight, he would have the respect for Tanjiro where they actually wouldn't, continue fighting, and Inosuke would want to prove to them and everybody else that he is just as powerful, if not more powerful, than Tanjiro himself and all that stuff. The normal Inosuke type of things, leading them to have a bit of a break, some downtime, but then eventually leading them to Mount Natagumo, where there have been quite a few missing demon slayers. And these missing demon slayers, well, they're strung up. A lot of them have strings all on them, and they're all kind of unable to move and stuff like that. And Tanjiro and Inosuke are able to get them somewhat out of harm's way by kind of freezing over the spiders, or Tanjiro basically freezes over like the spiders and helps with so that the demons can't, or the mother spider demon can't actually continue controlling these demons that are on strings. And eventually they would face off with the doll of the mother spider demon, which Inosuke is able to actually end pretty quickly, with Tanjiro slowing down the pace of the fight of the demon. Now, in terms of the very next demon, aka the father spider demon, that's a whole nother story, because Tanjiro, yes, he's trying his best to like slow him down and do this, but this father spider demon would shock Tanjiro because he wouldn't realize that he's still pretty damn quick, at least quick enough to kind of do something about what's going on, and he would hit Tanjiro just enough to where he sends him in the direction of a different demon, and the stronger demon, a member of the 12 Kizuki, other known as Rui. And Tanjiro would be faced off with Rui before you know it, and he would have one of the most kind of insane battles he has ever had in his life. Going back and forth with Rui, he shows his capabilities, and he shows that his powers definitely allow him to keep up with Rui to a large extent, but Tanjiro just can't do enough to end the demon entirely. He can't do enough, and he tries everything. I mean, he even freezes kind of Rui to an extent to where the wounds that he's inflicting are not healing anywhere near as fast as normal, and even messing with the battlefield and you know, with ice and slowing things down and making it harder to gain footing and stuff like that gives him openings. But even when he slices the neck off of Rui is able to legitimately kind of cut his own neck off, and just in time, he's able to basically survive, or kind of help. He's able to basically survive and save himself from actually getting decapitated just in time before Tanjiro is able to defeat him. So Tanjiro does what he believes is best, and that is to freeze him entirely. And it kind of roots Tanjiro as well, because he doesn't have the full capabilities yet to overwhelmingly use his ice powers. And when he tries to, like, you know, utilize the ice powers, he's pushing them up and starts like creating this ice all around them, both of them. It stops Tanjiro as well, but freezes Rui too. And as it does, Giyu would see an opening. Someone who just arrived just in time, as he comes out of nowhere, slicing the neck off of Rui. And Giyu would tell Tanjiro that he did a hell of a job, like a great job, and that he's impressed, right? Very impressed about what he's capable of. And Tanjiro nods his head as he kind of gets rid of the ice that is on the floor. And Giyu says that it seems that his powers have progressed very nicely, but it just seems that he needs to stop relying so heavily on them and make sure that he becomes a stronger fighter himself. In which Giyu would tell him that he needs to continue pushing his training and water breathing and continue pushing himself even further. And Tanjiro would nod his head and agree, or in agreement, and he would ask Giyu to teach him more, to help him, in which Giyu's like, I don't know, right? I don't know if I can. But Shinobu would come out of nowhere before even seeing actually Nezuko there. She would be like, no, Shinobu or Giyu can teach you, right? There's an extra form that even Urokodaki isn't teaching, and that Giyu basically came up with himself. And as this conversation would finish up, Nezuko would come out of nowhere and kind of just be there, like, you know, just chilling. And Shinobu would attack her, and so would Kanao, trying to attack her as well. And this would lead to a fight with Tanjiro and Giyu versus Kanao and Shinobu. And this fight would kind of like be to protect Nezuko, but eventually would lead to Nezuko and Tanjiro being put on trial by the Hashira. Now, we know how this goes, and Nezuko would eventually, like, you know, kind of be accepted within the Demon Slayers, and would be accepted after, you know, refusing the blood from Saname as well, and eventually would decide to, like, you know, they would decide, or Ubiyashiki would decide to allow this to happen and allow Tanjiro and Nezuko to continue forward as basically Urokodaki and also Giyu would give their lives if Nezuko ever hurt or killed a human being. And after all that is said and done, we would have rehabilitation training as much as possible, and Giyu would eventually decide to teach Tanjiro another form, and that form would be the 11th form of water breathing, right? Dead Calm. Someone that basically is a personal creation of Giyu Tomoyoka, and this creation makes things completely different. I mean, legitimately, there's technically two versions of it, right? Where it's like, you have your defensive version, but there also is an offensive version that could be potentially even just as good for Tanjiro as well. Now, with that said, though, we have a lot to know about, or a lot to figure out with the 11th form, and Tanjiro trains his ass off to basically try to figure it out and learn and kind of get a good grasp on how to utilize it. And eventually he would get that good grasp. Like, he eventually would get a solid grasp on the final form, or the 11th form of water breathing. And as Giyu expected, it would start kind of merging with his ice powers and turning the 11th form into something even greater. It seems that Dead Calm, or water breathing Dead Calm, aka the 11th form, basically molds with his ice breathing, and it forces something completely different out of the battlefield. I mean, mixing with ice, or ice powers, allows for it to be even more defensive, or even more kind of offensive as well, because it allows for one, kind of like a crystal reflection for the defensive one, where the enemy strikes, all that stuff would be reflected right back at the enemy, or even kind of like a full 360 frozen zone that completely changes the entire battlefield and locks both Tanjiro and the opponent in together. Now, these are not, easy things for him to do, and not easy things for him to get done, but in dire need, he knows that he will have to utilize it if he wants to, actually take someone down, or if he needs to get rid of someone as well. Now, this time around, though, Tanjiro would continue his missions and stuff like that, and would continue training with Giyu, and that would be the main kind of person that Tanjiro would be with. He would be mainly with Giyu, going on different missions with Giyu Tomoyoka, and he actually wouldn't go on a mission to the Mugen train. Now, this entire train, right, whole thing, Rengoku would be able to handle it, but probably would get maybe a different Demon Slayer or a couple other Demon Slayers to show up. But Rengoku himself would be able to handle it with quite a bit of struggle, but he would be able to handle it to a certain extent, defeating Enmu most likely on his own. And Akaza would never appear because, we know who Akaza was truly after. This would lead, though, to a lot of training for Tanjiro, a lot of preparation, leading him to actually, to his next mission would be into the Entertainment District arc, which that's when he would replace Aoi and another girl, because they're basically getting taken away by Tengen, or the Sound Hashira, and they agree to pretend as if they were females or girls or wives in disguise to basically save Tengen's wives. And Tanjiro goes through quite a bit here, even meeting some pretty awesome people and some interesting people, but eventually he would get his first face-off with Daki, and this fight is something that Tanjiro feels massively prepared for, and he goes head-to-head with Daki, slowing her down to the point where he doesn't have to even unveil his other breathing, or his new stuff, or his new powers, and he allows him to kind of stay away from utilizing things to a different type of degree. And as he kind of closes that distance and goes head to head with Daki, he doesn't find the neck of Daki just now, or not quick enough to the point where he isn't defeated, but he also doesn't beat Daki right here and right now. But after that is all said and done, eventually Tengen would join the fight, and eventually Daki would be defeated, and it would reveal Gyutaro, aka the other demon that is within Daki, her brother. Now, with this happening, this is when Tanjiro realizes that this is the chance he needs to take down Gyutaro, that they need to basically find a way to slice his neck off, and Tanjiro is going to find that way. And this would lead him to basically getting obviously Tengen to stay close to him, as he would utilize his new dead calm, water breathing, or kind of like the mix, or the ice breathing dead calm crystal reflection. And in doing so, he puts both him and also Tengen within the same area, putting a reflection type of like kind of ice reflection or crystal reflection upon both of them. And when Gyutaro would realize that he is just him and them now, he realizes his connection to Daki is nowhere near as good, right? It's kind of messed up, and there's kind of like interference. So he tries his best to shut down what Tanjiro is doing. He dodges Tengen initially and goes and all out one of the biggest attacks he can throw at Tanjiro. He throws it directly at him. In doing so, it reflects right back at him, shattering the ice in front of Tanjiro of his one-time reflection, but injuring Gyutaro and slowing down his regeneration drastically. And in doing so, allows for Tengen to follow up. And even though he's poisoned at this point, Tanjiro and him are able to follow up on a massively injured Gyutaro, slicing his neck off. And as the ice would fade, and as this dead calm kind of area that has been created would fade away, they would see a lightning bolt strike across, basically striking through the neck of Daki, as Zenitsu would slice through her neck in one foul swoop. And just like that, the two of them would be defeated, and Tanjiro would immediately head over towards Tengen and put ice upon him. As this is happening, his wives are freaking out, saying like, "What are you doing? You're gonna hurt him, blah blah blah." But immediately Tengen tells them to calm down, like, "Hey, chill out. Like, I trust him." In which Tanjiro actually heals the poison out of them, or out of him, to a certain extent. Not fully, but luckily enough, Nezuko walks over and she does the rest, lighting him ablaze as she basically melts the ice, but heals him as well. Even the wounds on his body are healed through the mixture of Nezuko's kind of fire, bloody demon aura type of thing with the healing, and also Tanjiro's ice, in which everyone's shocked to think, whoa, that is pretty impressive that this kind of sister brother duo is like really that amazing to look at. And immediately Tengen's thinking that his ice powers, Tanjiro's ice powers, are truly the way to stop all of this from happening, to stop basically Muzan in his tracks. And before you know it, Tanjiro would be preparing for that specifically, and that's all they would want him to do. Prepare this ice, his abilities, and he would begin, working with Shinobu as well on kind of like a different version of the cure and all this stuff, including Lady Tamayao, and that takes up a ton of his time. He still continues training, preparing, and all this other stuff, but at the same time, while this is happening, he's not involved in the fight at the Swordsmith's village arc. So he hears about it during this time, and he would have Nezuko with him, and he would bolt off to basically help, being that he is one of the faster demon slayers, and or kind of one up almost a Hashira at this point. Utilizing his ice, he skates across the entire area, getting the location of the Swordsmith's village arc, or Swordsmith's village, because guess what? At the end of the day, there's already demons that found it, so they're going to have to move the Swordsmith's village before you know it. So what they had to do was they had to give up the area or the spot where it is specifically so Tanjiro could go help. And before you know it, he would arrive to actually help out Mitsuri and Genya to take on, obviously, Hantengu, in which Tanjiro would basically do exactly the way he did in the original, but he would be able to kind of give more openings for his teammates, slow down the battlefield, and Nezuko helps out where she can as well, with her abilities continuing to evolve and push the boundaries of her capabilities. Tanjiro is able to help out here and now. And yes, Hantengu was a very, very tough cookie to crack and a tough demon to deal with, but eventually the sun would be rising and Tanjiro would grab onto him and would freeze him and Tanjiro together. And in this moment, Tanjiro shows a little bit of something he's been working on. He holds them both still, where he's not being affected by the demon, not being hurt by him, but Tanjiro holds him as the sun would rise and the sun would begin to burn him out, or even quicker than normal, because it seems like the ice that is being created is used as kind of like a magnifying glass in a way, even making the sun a greater version of it, making it stronger and more potent, burning up Hantengu and the real version of Hantengu with it, as the sun would rise and the defeat would ensue. But the thing is, Tanjiro's not thinking about one thing, and that's his sister. His sister's still out in the sun, and he's in shock because he turns around and he sees that Nezuko has conquered the sun. And this is a shock out of his mind, thinking that this seems like it's meant to be. Nezuko has conquered the sun and has pushed a boundary that nobody else in the world has seen ever. And it seems like Muzan now has his wants in order in terms of finding Nezuko and getting rid of her, or taking her and freaking, conquering the sun himself. But Tanjiro, well, he refuses for something like that to happen. And this would lead to them into Hashira training, preparing, and truly Tanjiro getting stronger, better, and more prepared. But he is coming up with a plan with Shinobu, with Shinobu and also Lady Tamayao for the eventual fight with Muzan. But before you know it, Tanjiro would still be put in a spot where he kind of has to fight his way through the Infinity Castle first, as he would team up with Giyu Tomioka and would face off with the one and only Akaza. But the thing is, yes, Tanjiro lacks the ability of sun breathing, not that he can't use it, but he has been granted other powers elsewhere. And when both of them utilize their versions of Dead Calm, one being that Tanjiro utilizes Crystal Reflection, a defensive Dead Calm, and Giyu Tomioka utilizing a different version of Dead Calm, Tidal Waves, an offensive variation of it that allows him to basically push forward and initiate in a fight, and both of them combining them together gives them openings that Akaza, even though he can detect, he can react to an extent, he can't fully block and stop because he's slowed down, he's slower than normal, and he's unable to truly get past this ice slowing effect and kind of all this stuff that Tanjiro is creating on his own, but also with the mix of Giyu as well, utilizing it, giving Giyu openings, making him faster, even stronger. Akaza would fall short, very short of his abilities than normal, and let's just say when his neck would get sliced off, and there would be kind of a conversation with himself on if he should push past his limits or he should take the loss. Eventually, that decision would be clear, and he would take the loss on the chin, believing them to be better fighters, more capable, and finally he can be with his loved one and his wife in the afterlife, even if they both need to go to hell. But this isn't the end of Tanjiro's story. Tanjiro may have defeated an Upper Moon, and as the crows would sing and the crows would caw, saying that Tanjiro Kamado and Giyu Tomioka has defeated Upper Moon 3 Akaza, it seems like Tanjiro's moment is not done just yet. because when he gets out and he sees Muzan, he sees that Leda Tamayao has done her part, her moment, and has basically implanted something within Muzan, aka the cure for being a demon. And Tanjiro realizes that Muzan's body is eating it up, right, quicker and kind of regenerating through it. And Tanjiro knows what he needs to do. He knows what needs to get done. And he immediately would fight against Muzan as this kind of cure would be doing its work. And Tanjiro would eventually get close enough to where he does exactly what he needed to do, freezing both him and Muzan with a potent freeze, a freeze that he wouldn't have expected, and also utilizing dead calm crystal reflection, and in doing so slowing both Muzan's heartbeat but also his own. And Tanjiro breathes slowly, and as he does, Muzan struggles toward him and wants to end Tanjiro, slicing or trying to hit him. And as Muzan throws basically an attack at him, it would go right back at him and it would puncture him in many ways, and he could feel that he's not healing from this at all. Tanjiro looks at Muzan and says that both of their lives are so minuscule in this world, because after he's gone and after I'm gone, or after Tanjiro's gone, they will all forget. Nobody will remember you, Muzan. No one will remember what you did, who you were, and what you tried to do. But I will always remember, because I will be taking it to my grave. And Tanjiro envelops both of them in ice as he slows the regeneration of Muzan so much that it no longer, his body is not allowing him to fight the cure that is within his body. But Tanjiro is feeling the effects of the cold now himself. But Muzan's feeling it just as much, because he feels that no matter what, if he holds him here, eventually the cure will get to him, and all the poison that is within as well will begin to overwhelm him and his body. But if not, and Muzan comes out of this alive and Tanjiro doesn't, or he doesn't as well in himself, obviously referring to himself, and he doesn't, well, he knows that he can hold this ice and hold Muzan still until the sun would eventually rise. And before you know it, the sun would rise, and the ice would trickle, and the sun would begin to melt all of it away. And as it does, Muzan would come out of that of the ice, and he would look at his own body, realizing that he is human once again. But just as he realizes this, the ice would wear off, and his body would no longer be able to withstand the years and years, the hundreds of years of being alive, and would come back to bite him, and he would disintegrate on the spot. But Tanjiro would collapse on the ground, laying there. And Gyu Tomoyoka would come over, and he would take something that Shinobu gave him for a moment like this, and he tries to do something to get Tanjiro's heart to start beating once again, utilizing what he had. But he realizes that Tanjiro might not come out of this, and he might not live. He tells Nezuko to come over, and tells everybody else as well, as Muzan has been defeated, and he tells Nezuko, Inosuke, and Zenitsu to say their goodbyes. That Tanjiro was one of the greatest they've seen. Person or demon slayer alike, Tanjiro Kamado was one of the best. And yes, he may have died right here fighting against a monster, but it doesn't change the fact that he truly brought peace to everyone and everything. And as this is happening, well, Inosuke would get on his knees and he would call to Tanjiro, pushing on his chest and yelling at him, telling him to get up, that it's not time for him to leave, not time for him to go. And well, Nezuko would kneel down beside him as well, and basically hold Tanjiro's hand, and basically tell him that if it's time for you to go, then you should go. But if it's not, then come back to your family. And as this happens, Zenitsu would bawl out as well, bawling and crying, and eventually Giyu would walk up and tell them that it might just be over, that the end might be now. But it doesn't mean that, and as he's about to finish his sentence, you can hear a loud gasp of air. Tanjiro would breathe in, and the ice would kind of dissipate completely, and he would breathe out this icy breath, and his heart would begin beating hard once again. One after another, it seems like the over-excessive usage of the dead calm was messing with him, but it seems as if the ice itself actually brought him back, restarting his heart and restarting his ability to actually be alive. And Tanjiro himself just lived an encounter with Muzan, but that's not it. He defeated the king of all demons, and he did it with his life, intact, allowing for the future generations to live on, and the future generations to live life normally, without fear, and with every expectation they can possibly imagine. But with that said, that is the end of What If Tanjiro Had Ice Powers. And if you enjoyed, show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.